Welcome back. Today we are going to be addressing a video on the subject of pronouns. Now today's fan art was made by ViperSword100, a Sandwich Wench alumni. She made 2 other pieces. One is not safe for work, so I can't show it to you. Now she's an anti-SJW content creator, please go subscribe. She does make some very good content. Now before we get into that, I'm going to need many sandwiches.
Alright, Lord Amegon, as you all know, the best sandwich is a catered sandwich, and we have several here along with fixings to prepare them.
Do you have any other sandwiches?
We have the fixings for a pulled pork sandwich.
What about drinks? They're very important.
The after-dinner aperitif, which I'm sure you'll agree is the most important bits.
Unicum. For those who are interested, window cleaner and aniseed. That's exactly what you want on your palate. Anything for afters?
And some cookies.
Fantastic. Thank you very much to Jason Brazil. He's a fellow content creator. Please go subscribe. His channel link is below. Now let's get started.
Okay, it's quite a topical issue recently, so we need to fucking talk about pronouns.
Is this discussion on pronouns going to focus on the legitimacy of some of those pronouns, or are we going to treat them all as if they are 100% real and have you tell us that respect must be given and not earned? Oh, and that those pronouns that were created deep within the bowels of Tumblr are marginalized.
Pronouns are words which take the space of a noun, so instead of saying the clunky sentence, Holly went to the shop and Holly bought a can of drink, you could say, Holly went to the shop and they bought a can of drink.
Are you sure it's they and not she? The sentence would make more sense if you said Holly went to the shops and she bought a can of drink.
You would say they.
Yes.
Because I use they them pronouns.
Yes, you use them incorrectly. And don't spend this video, please don't spend this video demanding to be respected, because your they them pronoun, which makes no sense whatsoever, is marginalized, oppressed somehow.
Let's get down to the fucking basics.
Oh, what a wonderful idea.
You use the pronouns that someone wants you to use that correspond with the gender they identify as.
Yes, and I think it's widely accepted that there are limitations on that. Social media has done you no favours in this. I'm also interested to know when the subject of gender comes up. Do you introduce yourselves and then say, what is your gender, pronoun, identity and expression?
I'm personally agender.
Oh, the temptation to play dumb was strong when I first heard that. If I remember correctly, agender is one of the many genders you find on that massive Tumblr spreadsheet.
I use they them pronouns. To use other pronouns for me is just fucking wrong.
Do you expect everyone to take your gender seriously? I mean, agender seriously? Your gender, which is agender, seriously? I'm not going to use they them pronouns for you. And that's because to the majority of people, agender is not a gender.
They, them isn't my preferred pronouns, they are my pronouns. If you're not using them, you're just referring to me incorrectly.
I would rather refer to you by name, Holly. Inserting made-up genders does no one any favours. In fact, if anything, it adds to the confusion that is your desperate attempt to be unique. All the while portraying an easily offended millennial that lives on social media to a T.
You wouldn't refer to the cis guy you went to high school with as she, because obviously he doesn't use she, her, hers pronouns.
That's not entirely true. You see, the way you phrased your sentence means that in the time since leaving high school or secondary school to myself, that person may well have transitioned and therefore may in fact use the she, her pronouns. Just wanted to offer correction here.
And just as using the wrong pronouns for someone who is cis, meaning cisgender, meaning identifying with the gender they were assigned at birth as, is offensive, it is even more offensive to transgender people.
I can understand why some people who are transgender getting offended, but why would you, being agender, get offended? Because you make it impossible to know your agender without starting a conversation with, what is your gender, because I don't want to get this wrong, can you tell me your pronouns, expressions, and identities, please? And then you pull out a massive Monopoly-sized game, roll a dice, and ascertain your sexuality for the day.
But why would it be more offensive? Because it's a fucking act of aggression and disrespect against someone who probably already endures multiple acts of erasure, disrespect, and violence in their everyday life just because of how they identify and live.
I really don't like this idea that misgendering somebody is somehow an act of aggression. Sometimes a genuine mistake is a genuine mistake. I'm not saying that all mistakes are genuine and not sometimes born out of malice or dislike towards another person. Ignorance, perhaps, born out of whatever ideology they subscribe to. But I do think it devalues the word aggression because of gender.
Okay?
Well, now you've convinced me.
It's not okay.
Duly noted.
Let's take Caitlyn Jenner, for example.
This should be good.
To refer to Caitlyn as anything other than she, her, herself is wrong, even if you're referring to her 20, 30 years ago. She is a she identifies as a she has always been a she is just only now allowed to actually identify and present that way.
Yeah, this is a tough one. As far as examples go, this is actually quite tricky because in 76, when then Bruce Jenner won gold, can you say Bruce was Caitlyn then? Because if that's the case, then surely Caitlyn should be disqualified for winning a gold in a male sport, or a male event in 1976. If you want to talk about Bruce Jenner's legacy as an athlete, do you talk about Bruce Jenner the athlete, or Caitlyn Jenner, formerly Bruce Jenner the athlete?
Misgendering people through the implied gender of pronouns can be extremely hurtful and cause extreme gender dysphoria in people.
Well, I guess there are only two obvious solutions then. One, we all walk around with one of those stickers on that says, "Hi, my name is," and then underneath it should be, "Hi, my gender is," "Hi, my expression is," "Hi, my identity is," "Hi, my sexuality is," "Hi, my faith is," and so on, just to be sure we don't offend anyone. The second one, abolish all genders. Let's find a way to biologically correct this as well, so we don't have biological sexes either.
And guess what? You don't know if someone you have just met might be trans, might just use different pronouns, or might experience gender dysphoria. You don't know that.
Which is why it's a lot easier to address someone by their name as opposed to their pronoun.
So, guess what you do to avoid gendering them?
You do what I said earlier and address them by their name.
You use neutral pronouns.
And what exactly is a neutral pronoun? What is the word someone has to use that is considered a neutral pronoun to address someone until they have clarified as to what their gender and pronoun is?
Wow, who would have thunk it? The most common pronouns which are considered neutral are they, them, their, themselves. Before you jump in with, "But them is plural, you use that to refer to more than one person."
I will concede they and them can be used as a singular, but I can understand why the majority of people would say to you, they, them refers to a larger group of peoples. As I do not consider they, them to be a gender pronoun, I'm going to instead give you the gender pronoun metal mustache in honor of your septum piercing.
No, you don't always. It can also be singular. Fucking ask a linguist. You're wrong.
Or just Google it. You'll find a lot of internet personalities I make videos on hide behind definitions they've typically derived from Google, or from dictionaries that are about 10 years old.
You probably already use they, them as a singular pronoun, you just don't realise it.
Yes, people use they, them in the context of, "Oh, I will go and get them, they are over there." Not for somebody who says they are a gender. That's not a gender.
Imagine your friend just got off the phone with a doctor and you don't know who their doctor is. You would say, "Oh no, what did they say?"
Or you simply say, "What did the doctor say?" They didn't go to medical school to be gender neutral. They went to medical school for the title, the bitches, and the money.
Things not to do that goddamn S-he, she, he thing. That's just silly and incorrect and offensive.
Do you mean like when someone puts a forward slash between the S and the H so someone can simply cross out the S if needed? In which case, that's not bad at all. In fact, that's accurate, since there are only two genders.
Or use it. Some people might use it pronouns.
Oh, I'd recommend caution here, Holly. You're about to tread on a very dark path where you suddenly dehumanize someone else who may in fact have it as their gender pronoun.
But normally it's considered extremely dehumanizing and really awful because guess what? People aren't objects.
That there is some of the very best, the finest logic I have ever heard in my life. It just makes me want to embrace the pronoun it that much more.
Now you might be going, oh, but if I'm supposed to not gender people, how do I know what gender they are and how to refer to them? Guess what? You ask them?
The problem we have here is that some people think that means they have an excuse to go out of their way to use what they found on social media. Introduce some dice, maybe that spinning gambling game in Vegas, to get the number, the colour, and ascertain what their gender identity expression is, to add extra confusion to any social encounter, which could change on any given day depending on how they feel. As the remainder of your video is simply you explaining basic courtesy and etiquette and how we should change to introduce pronouns to basic discussion with new people, I'm going to end this here. Thank you all for listening.